everyone. Today I'm going to talk about our identity and influence. Most of the people struggle with this. What is my identity? Because, my friends are saying like this, my teachers are saying like this, my parents are saying like this. And so as we grow up, we tend to struggle with our identity, our influence, and we don't know how to react. We start copying some people. We learn from the life of Joseph in the book of Genesis that there are several people in the life of Joseph, and they have different perspective for Joseph. The first thing we see, for the brothers of Joseph, Joseph was just an object of hatred. They hated him all the time. They didn't like him because father loves him more than us, and so they cannot tolerate Joseph. So for Joseph, his brothers did not have a good idea about Joseph, and they just hated him. They wanted to kill him. And for Ishmaelites, he was just an object of profit. They were seeing Joseph, okay, now if we can buy him here and sell him in the Egypt, we'll get more money. So he was just a matter of profit and loss. And so many times some people can also evaluate us like that, whether we are of a profit or a loss, and they will always consider in that way. The third group of people here we see is Potiphar. For Potiphar, if you can get a nice strong man who can work in your home all day, all along freely, and he is faithful, what else do you need? So for him, he was a slave who would work for him faithfully and nicely. So he enjoyed his fellowship. But that was not true identity of Joseph. For Potiphar's wife, a young hunk and a sexual object. And that's what Potiphar's wife always considered Joseph. But that was not Joseph's identity. The next group is the jailer. For jailer, what else you need if you have a young disciplined prisoner who would always assist you and help you? So for him, he was a person who would assist him, help him, and take care of the jail discipline. And for the cupbearer and the butler, he was a friend in need. Just take advantage of the situation and forget about him. That was the idea of different people. For Pharaoh, he was an intelligent leader who could help him in the times of crisis. All these identities and influence were given by people. If Joseph had taken any one of these identities, he would have suffered, he would have backslided, he would have failed utterly. But what happened? He was always on with God's identity. And for God, he was going to save his people. He was going to save the people of Egypt. He was going to become the prime minister. He was going to become the influential leader who would bring his people over to the land of Egypt. And so Joseph became successful in fulfilling the identity he received from God. Friends, you might be struggling with this idea, and your friends, your people around you might be thinking about you differently. They will be giving you different comments. That's not who you are. The crisis, the situation do not determine who you are. Your people around you do not determine who you are. Crisis and situation around Joseph determined that Joseph will remain a slave, but he was not a slave. People always determined Joseph remained as a slave or somebody who would never see the light, and they will always remain in the dungeon. That was not Joseph's identity, because he never allowed people or situation to determine his identity. He always allowed God to determine his identity, and therefore he never compromised. He never wanted quick success. He waited upon the Lord for 13 years, and God made him the prime minister of Egypt. Friends, your identity and influence comes from God, and so never compromise. Never accept what people are saying. Never accept what circumstances are pushing you. You always accept what God is telling you to do. May God bless you.